Listen to the animals. Listen to the trees. Listen to the spirits of the earth begging us, please. Stop listening to greed. Listen to the river. Listen to the sea. Listen to the spirits of the deep begging us, please. Stop listening to greed. She sent the storms to warn us. We sent the storm out to scold us, but we don't listen. We burn and we break and we take and we take and we take until it's too late. Oh, where did the beasts go? Where did the trees go? Where will man go when he has lost the heartbeat beneath his feet? Heartbeat beneath his feet. Listen to the animals, listen to the trees, listen to the spirits of the earth begging us, please. Stop listening to greed. Listen to the river, listen to the sea, listen to the spirits of the deep begging us, please. Stop listening to greed, begging us, please. Stop listening to greed.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Chard from the Worship Committee. Thank you, Chris Geisha, for your gift of music with us this morning. Jessica Farmer, the Cultural Programs Coordinator at the Shakowee Cultural Center. The United Nations has come to be with us this morning. It's hard to believe it's been nearly a year since Ron Patterson from the Cultural Center was here. And we also checked in to see what Chris Thomas was up to for this weekend. It turns out Chris is our favorite Haudenosaunee storyteller and singer, is at the Brooklyn Children's Museum today. So great for him, and probably a good time for me to mention that we can look forward to Chris Thomas being our guest at the pulpit and musically this coming April. Looking forward to that. We really hope you can stay after today's service to participate in the luncheon and offer your thoughts in a small group discussion about our joint ministry with Reverend Karen. This is a UUA recommendation and something that we did do prior to Reverend Karen's ministry with us. It'll be instead of coffee hour, and it'll be right after the service, so please stay. If you're online, hi. Stay connected, please, so that Paul Tenerowitz can get your input during an online discussion. We have a defibrillator right now, right under the AED sign, next to the first aid kit, next to the Narcan. If you ever need to use a defibrillator, it talks to you. I didn't know that, but it tells you what to do, step by step. I think we'll have a demonstration on that. So, Steph, can we do it with you sometime? No, I mean as a subject. But in the meantime, I would like to encourage everyone to watch any YouTube video about how a defibrillator works. I did that. But like that way you won't be surprised should you ever need to use it. Really trying hard to say so you won't be shocked. I couldn't do it. Couple of things. Who likes coffee? Yeah. Who would like to make coffee next Sunday? Because we don't have anybody. As, who is it, Reese Witherspoon maybe might say, that coffee ain't gonna make it itself. So if we can get a couple of volunteers for coffee hour next Sunday, You can sign up. You can see Mary. Hi, Mary. And we appreciate your help and your fellowship for the hospitality hour. The 2023 Freedom Fund Dinner is this Sunday, is not this Sunday. It's Sunday, October 22nd at Rose Lawn. This is the NAACP's largest annual fundraiser. There's a flyer right under the symbols. There's another flyer on the bulletin board by the minister's bulletin board there by the door. You can also look at my copy. You can also talk to Carol. We have traditionally tried our best to support the NAACP. And if you want, I could mail it to you also. But the thing is, the deadline to purchase tickets is this Friday, if you can. And it's $65 for the dinner, which includes a 1-year membership to the NAACP. Reverend Karen's going, Ken Drake's going, and we're making a sponsorship donation via the program booklet. UU support of the NAACP has been historic. So if you can, please help us continue. We want to congratulate our brothers and sisters at Hope Chapel AME Zion Church as they celebrate 175 years of faithful service to the Utica community. They have a luncheon of support on Saturday, October 21. There will be details in this week's newsletter, but again, you can see Carol Gable, and she'll tell you all about it also. Welcome. Whoever you are, whatever you believe, however you identify, you are welcome here. We are a community because of these things, because of you. Each Sunday morning, as part of our welcome, we mentioned that our church sits on the Haudenosaunee ancestral lands. Last Sunday, Reverend Karen referred to them as the stolen lands of the Oneida and Mohawk peoples. I was impressed. And I thought that bears repeating, especially on the occasion of tomorrow's national holiday, which some call Columbus Day. More and more of us call it Indigenous Peoples Day. How many of us learned in grammar school that Columbus discovered America? I did. Had to memorize a poem in 3rd grade. And it was a lot of hard work, and I can still recite that poem from memory. So I'm going to channel my 3rd grade self from 65 years ago. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. For many years he was at sea with sailing ships that numbered 3. Yo-ho, 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 my lads, yo-ho. The winds blew cold, the waves rolled high. No friendly stars were in the sky. Turn back, the sailors pled. Sail on, Columbus said. Yo-ho, 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 my lads, yo-ho. And so he sailed his little band until at last he sighted land. Today we honor him in song, Columbus, hero, brave and strong. I was much, much older before I became aware that Columbus never got close to what we now call America. According to the internet, to this day, elementary school children are still taught that Columbus discovered America. Probably be more appropriate to credit Columbus with discovering spring break, because he did get as far as the Bahamas. We'll give him that. He did not discover India either, as he thought he had, but he nonetheless named the native people Indians, and there's something that stays with us to this day. Yo-ho! That little ditty was not our call to worship. This morning's call to worship is an Aboriginal proverb from Australia. Ab origine. That's the Latin for since the origin. It literally means they were here first. And these are their words. We are all visitors to this time, this place. We are just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, to learn, to grow, to love, and then we return home. Our chalice lighting this morning is from the Reverend Andy Pakula. And Utica's very own Jennifer Chard is here today to light the chalice, which is right here. We recall now the ancient fires, fires of mystery and magic, fires of welcome and warmth, fires that vanquished the wild terrors of the dark night. May this small flame be to us a sign of these ancestral blazes, connecting us yet again to mystery, comfort, and hope. Please stand if you are so moved for hymn 1003.
Hold on and sit for a moment.
Uh-oh. Do I have to sit?
You don't have to.
Okay. In the teal hymn, no?
It's not on yet. But... All right, so 1003 has 4 lines, and we are going to learn them one at a time. And then we're going to sing them all together. Then we're going to stand and sing it as a round. I promise it will work. So I will sing a line, and you sing it back to me. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? And now we see how well you remember them, because we're going to go back to the top and do all 4 lines straight through. You ready? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? And now, if you would stand as you are willing and able. And this side of the room is going to start first, and you will follow along with Kim and Chris. And my side of the room is going to come in 1 line later, and we'll sing the whole thing twice through, just like we just did. You guys ready? Ready? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Great job, people.
tilt the microphone down today. Good morning. For Together Time today, we are reading the story Fry Bread, a Native American family story, written by Kevin Noble Malliard and illustrated by Juana Martinez Nial. Fry bread is food: flour, salt, water, cornmeal, baking powder, perhaps milk, maybe sugar, all mixed together in a big bowl. Fry bread is shape. Hands mold the dough, flat like a pancake, round like a ball, or puffy like Nana's softest pillow. Fry bread is sound. The skillet clangs on the stone. The fire blazes from below. Drop the dough in the skillet. The bubbles sizzle and pop. Fry bread is color: golden brown, tan, or yellow, deep like coffee, sienna, or earth, light like snow and cream, warm like rays of sun. Fry bread is flavor: see beans or soup, smell tacos, cheese, and vegetables, delight in honey and jam, rise to discover what brings us together. Fry bread is time. On weekends and holidays, supper or dinner, powwows and festivals, moments together with family and friends. Fry bread is art: sculpture, landscape, portrait, our daily craft shared from teacher to student, a cycle of heritage and fortune. Fry bread is history: the long walk, the stolen land, strangers in our own world. With unknown food, we made new recipes from what we had. Fry bread is place: Alaska, Kansas, all the way to Maine, down to Delaware, on to Georgia, over to Oklahoma, Colorado, and California. Cities and lands we call home. Fry bread is nation: Abenaki, Apache, Arapaho, Ojibwe, Onondaga, Oglala Sioux, Narragansett, Navajo, Nipmuc, Seminole, Shoshone, Sac, and Fox, hundreds and hundreds of tribes. Fry bread is everything: round, flat, large, small, north, south, east, west, brown, yellow, black, white, familiar and foreign, old and new. We come together. Fry bread is us. We are still here, elder and young, friend and neighbor. We strengthen each other to learn, change, and survive. Fry bread is you. And that's the end of the story. There is a recipe for fry bread if you want to take a look at this book in the back, and there is an author's note with a lot more information. I will have this book with me after the service, and you can read any of the supplemental material that you would like.
Thank you, staff. We are honored this morning to welcome to our pulpit Jessica Farmer.
Sigoli. So my name is Jessica Farmer. I work for the Oneida Indian Nation. I am the Cultural Programs Coordinator, but I myself am from the Onondaga Nation. My father was Isaiah Farmer, a member of the Turtle Clan Onondaga Nation. So before I start kind of my explanation of what we're talking about today, I want to just preface that there are 566 recognized nations within the United States, recognized Native nations, and we don't all speak in one mind. People have their own beliefs and are willing to share those individually. So as I'm speaking here today, I'm speaking for myself and for community members that I have grown up with, family members that I have grown up with, and kind of the like of mind that we have came together and formed around our art. But I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation, because sometimes that gets a little bit confused amongst people. We get at the Segoe Cultural Center a lot of people coming in and asking if it's okay to wear our artwork. And when I say our artwork, I'm talking about our beadwork, our barrettes, our necklaces, our earrings, and something I had to explain individually to people. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to come and speak to a whole group at large. So we say that it's okay to wear our art, but not really to make our art and claim it as your own. So the difference really is if you go and buy something from a Native artist and you wear it and you proudly tell people, oh, I bought this from an Oneida woman, this is the person who made it, that's appreciation. That's what we like to hear. And our beadwork and our art is meant to be shown and seen and cared for. It's meant for you. But it's when you get to the appropriation part of the problem is when you start creating that art on your own and kind of claiming it as Native art. And that's just not, it's once you've made it and you're not Native yourself, it's just not Native art. It might be Native inspired art, but it's not Native art. So you're kind of appropriating our artwork into your own life, and rather than just simply appreciating it and what we've done. And the reason we're so protective of our artwork is really to do with our history. So when we were forced on reservations, reservation land wasn't the greatest land. Hunting, farming, fishing like we used to wasn't an option. In the case of the Oneida Nation, they were only left with 32 acres. And you cannot live on, hunt on, farm on, fish on 32 acres, not an entire nation. So what they would do is they would get together, especially during the winter, the colder months, and they would bead, and they would make basketry. They would make beautiful artwork together. And then they would take it during the summer to places like Saratoga Springs, Niagara Falls, Oneida Lake, any tourist area in New York, and sell their artwork. And that's how they made money to survive. Our artwork wasn't simply something pretty to wear. It was survival for us. It was something that we needed. And still to this day, we have a lot of families who rely on selling their art to survive. Some of the reservations aren't around larger cities, Akwesasne. You know, you don't have a larger area to go get a job at. You know, if you're living on a reservation, there's not a lot for you. There's not a lot of opportunities. So we have a lot of families that will spend all winter working on their artwork, their beadwork, bead by bead, one at a time. Their basketry, splints, they have to clean it, they have to cut it, they have to weave together the baskets. It takes a very long time to make a project, even if you know what you're doing. So it's important to us that it's kind of appreciated more, that our time, and that it's more than just a pretty thing to look at, a pretty thing to wear. It's what helped us be here today. Without our artwork, we may not have survived. We may not have lasted as long as we have, because that's how we fed our families. I remember when I was younger, sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table making corn husk dolls. I mean, I was probably 3 or 4, and that was the first project I got to learn, is making corn husk dolls, because my grandmother would then take those dolls and sell them, and that's how she ate. That's how she got food on her table. That's how she fed us. And it was so important to her to pass those lessons down to us, because she fully anticipated my need for this artwork, my eventual need to learn how to bead, to learn how to make corn husk dolls, to make baskets, because she wasn't sure how life was going to be for us. It was hard back in the day. Hire Native people really wasn't something that happened a lot, you know. If it did, it was absolutely back-breaking work. And construction, we had a lot of iron workers. Mohawks especially is built practically in New York City, so that's tough work. Our women, a lot of them were domestics, housekeepers, cleaners, and they had to work hard to provide money for their family, provide food for their family. But our artwork helped us with that, helped us come up with that income. So that's why we're so protective of it, and why we ask people that instead of making it yourself, you appreciate the work that we have put into it and the history behind it. All of our artwork too has some symbols in it. We have certain designs that we use in our artwork. We have what's called a sky dome, and the sky dome is meant to represent Turtle Island and the sky world above us. And when people see that, we know what it means, and we know where it's appropriate to put that. But other people who see it and think, oh, it's pretty, may not understand the meaning behind it. So a lot of our symbols have a deeper meaning, a deeper root. So it's not just something pretty that we made, it's something that's a little bit deeper. And unless you have grown up with that and you have been taught that by our elders, typically our elders are the ones who teach. I know that was how I learned my skills as an artist and as a history teacher. My elders taught me. My mother was the oral historian at the Segoe Cultural Center when I was about 9, and she would take me to elders' houses to listen to stories. And our elders don't let you just sit there and listen to stories all day. They put you to work. So they would give me some beadwork. Hey, make this. And I would learn how to do this. And they were teaching me a skill that I would need. They were teaching me about our artwork, about our ancestry. Our artwork shows our history. And I have brought some of it with us. I have a couple of baskets up here. Now, the baskets that I brought are actually Mohawk style baskets. They're black ash splints. And there's not too many people who can make these baskets. And the black ash tree itself is actually endangered. So we don't like to take a lot of them down unless they're going to be used specifically for our basketry. Because once those black ash trees are gone, we can't make our baskets anymore. So it's kind of a dying art for us. So we're trying to hang on to it with all we can. And I know the Mohawk Nation especially, they have a whole grove of black ash trees that they are saving only for basket makers. The only time they take a black ash tree down is when a basket maker needs some splints for her art, for her craft, and they'll take one down then. But they protect it from these foreign bugs that have been coming in and eating them and destroying them. And it's so important to us that we carry on, because these baskets are our history. You know, they're helped us get to where we are. So the ones here, they're specifically Mohawk style, and you guys can come up after and take a look at them. Feel free to touch if you need to, it's not a problem. But we also have some of our beadwork. And our beadwork that I brought here today is very specifically Haudenosaunee beadwork. We beaded what we've seen in our environment. So our beadwork is very floral. You see a lot of flowers and vines and leaves. You see a lot of animals on there as well. And that's just what we've seen in our environment. So Haudenosaunee beadwork is very distinct to this area because we beaded what we've seen. And if you guys have been across the United States, you know that there's different environments. The Navajo's beadwork is very different from ours. And again, this is one of the reasons why we prefer that the artwork be left to us, because we know the difference. We can say, oh, that's a Ojibwe art, that's Onondaga, that's a Mohawk basket. We can tell the difference. So we know when we're making it, or making this in the Tuscarora style, or making this in the Mohawk style, we know the difference. So we encourage everybody to just appreciate Native art simply by purchasing it from a Native person. Now, we do have classes occasionally that we invite the public in. In those classes, we have thought long and hard about what we do in those classes. We have thought, is this information we want people to have? Is this something that we want to protect just for ourselves and our people? And whenever we invite the public in, we've had to take into consideration of what we're using, the materials that we're using, what we're making. So I had a horn rattle class that Chris actually attended. And before I had that class, I had to think, is this a class that I want to teach to anybody? And the reason why we opened it up to the public is because our horn rattles are actually not traditional rattles. We use a steer horn in our rattles. And that steer horn, we didn't have a steer over here before Europeans came. So it's a new tool. So I felt comfortable teaching non-native people how to make that because it's a non-native item. It was okay. Now, the bark rattles that we had, we typically have rattles that were made out of elm bark or birch bark. That's not something I would teach how to make because that's an original. Those are used typically during ceremonies, and we don't want anybody having that knowledge and maybe misusing that. So the horn rattles were absolutely fine. We taught a class on it. We had a lot of great students come in and make some beautiful horn rattles, and that was good. So when you have a native person inviting you in to come and bead with me, come and learn with me, they've thought about that. They've thought, am I okay to teach this? Are they going to understand the history behind it and appreciate it? So you really got to kind of take when you're talking about cultural appropriation and appreciation, take your lead from us because we know, and it's very hard to tell people and explain people why this is okay but this isn't, and why some people think this is okay. Some native people thought though that Washington team's name was okay. They were fine with it. We didn't. We were horrified by that name. So we wanted that changed. We were horrified by the fans wearing the headdresses. Our native headdresses, they're made for very specific reasons. Only specific persons can wear those. So when we seen people wearing them in the crowd, it was absolutely horrible to us because we know that those have sacred meanings to us, to our people, and they're being almost mocked at that point. Now, again, 566 nations. We all don't think at one mind. People have their own opinions. So we did have some native people who said, well, it's fine. It's fine. They can wear it. But it really wasn't. It wasn't fine. So it's you got to kind of take it as you go by. And I get a lot of questions asked, what do you prefer? You guys, Indian's not right, right? That's correct. Indian's not right. We're not Indians. Native American. Native American. That's also not right because we're not technically American. We're actually the only group of citizens that had citizenship forced upon us. We didn't have a choice but to become citizens of the United States. So calling us American isn't quite right. So that's another word that we don't particularly like. And again, this is individual. People individually have their own preference. Some people prefer indigenous. Some people prefer natives, or they prefer to be called by their nation, like I'm Onondaga, so I prefer to be called Onondaga if you're going to refer to me as something. But everybody has their own preference. So if you're curious about what somebody wants to be called, what they want to be referred to, all I can say is simply ask. Ask as respectfully and as politely as you can. And we don't really take offense because we know that everybody has different preferences. Somebody might say, oh, call us First Nations. And just with that person, that's what they prefer. Because we all have our different preferences and our different beliefs. 566 nations, we all don't have the same religious beliefs. We all don't have the same cultural beliefs. We all don't have the same societal setups. We're all very different. So you're going to get different opinions from different nations and even different people within that nation. But one thing I also wanted to mention is really kind of about what is referred to as sort of a casual racism. And we had an issue with this in an office place not too long ago with one of our nation members. One of the bosses had told them that she was off the reservation, use that word, off the reservation. And our nation member was very upset about that. She called me up and was like, what do we have that we can teach them that that's not okay to say? And these are words that people, especially in offices, use. Let's have a powwow. Call each other chief. Oh, he's a chief. These are words and phrases that have been used, and we hear in daily conversations that are highly offensive. Off the reservation, do you guys know what that came from? No? It's from when the natives, especially out west, would leave the reservations to go either on raiding parties or hunting, whatever, and it was illegal for us to leave our reservations. So when they're saying, oh, they're off the reservation, they're off their territory, but are we? Is this my territory here? I'm Haudenosaunee. Everywhere in Haudenosaunee territory is my territory, not just that little 32 acres, not just that little spot in Onondaga. So, terms like that, we have to be careful when we're saying it, like get together, let's have a powwow. That's not appropriate, it's not okay. And they're been put into our minds as a whole community, just in casual conversations so often that it's hard to get out. It's hard to tell people that's not appropriate because they think we're attacking them, and we're not. We understand that everybody had different upbringings. One of the other terms that we hear a lot is Iroquois. I'm sure you've heard it quite a bit around here. Iroquois. That was a name given to the Haudenosaunee Confederacy by our enemies at the time, the Algonquins. The Algonquins allied with the French, and they asked, hey, what do you call them? And they said their word. And the French took off with that and stopped calling us Iroquois, which I don't like that phrase. Call us Iroquois. And then it turned to Iroquois, and it means black snakes or snake eaters. They're referring to us as snakes because, again, the Algonquins are our enemies. If we think about through our lives, somebody didn't like us, they probably didn't call us a nice name, right? Yeah. So they weren't calling us something nice. So when you call us Iroquois, it's actually insulting us. And people didn't know that. So every time I do a presentation and have a new group come in, I have to explain that and ask people, please don't say that word anymore. We prefer Haudenosaunee. Now, Haudenosaunee, that translates to people of the longhouse or people who are building a longhouse, because that's what we lived in. We lived in longhouses. And when we came together, our 5 nations, the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca, we were family. And you live in your longhouse with your family. So people who are building a longhouse were meant to add on to our longhouse, add on to our family, which we did in 1722 when the Tuscaroras joined us. So that's when we added on to our longhouse, added on to our family. And we're meant to continue with that. So that's our name, and that's what we prefer to be called. And I always encourage people to call us Haudenosaunee and just kind of forget that word Iroquois even existed. But for a long time, that's what we were referred to. And even at the museum, the Segoe that I work at, we have occasionally, I'll find a little piece of paper that says Iroquois, and I have to go and get our communications department to change that. Because even when it first opened, that word was still very much in use. That's what we were known by everybody. And we didn't have a voice. We didn't have the ability to stand up and say, hey, stop it. Don't call us that. You're insulting us. When you're struggling to survive, when you're struggling to put food on your table, to heat your homes, to take care of your children, the last thing you care about is a word. So it took us a very long time to be able to get to a place in our history where we're able to stand up and say, hey, that's not right. Don't say that. Don't call us that. That's why that Washington team's name went for so long. We didn't have a voice that we could stand up and say, hey, that is really offensive. You're talking about the scalps of our ancestors. Let's not do that, because we were struggling to survive. We were struggling just to put food on our table and make sure our kids made it the next day. And when you're in that position, in that survival mode for so long, it's hard to kind of see it past it. Now, a lot of our Native nations are making it out of there, but some still aren't. The Oneida Nation is doing very well. They are opening their casinos, their save-ons and maple leafs, and their businesses, all sorts of businesses they are into. And all of that funding goes back to the Oneida people. They are currently doing a community project, making the Mary C. Winder Community Center, which is an amazing building. It has an indoor lacrosse arena, it has an indoor pool, it has a whole library for everybody. They're currently building that, and it's absolutely stunning. It'll be done next spring. And we're all very excited for it. But that wouldn't be possible without the Oneida Nation having these businesses and being able to step up and generate that income for their community, because they had to take care of themselves. They had to realize that nobody was going to come and save them. Nobody was going to come and help them. And what made them realize that was actually a fire that happened. So on the Oneida Nation territory, the tiny little 32 acres of land that they had a bunch of trailers from FEMA brought in. Now, these trailers aren't meant to be lived in permanently. They're temporary homes. They're homes that FEMA brings in during disasters. But they had some left over after a disaster, and they brought them to the Oneida Reservation and dropped them off. So they had these trailers, and a whole bunch of families were moving back from all over to live on their ancestral land. And in one of the trailers, they had no power set up. They didn't have any lights or heat or anything. So they were lighting their trailer with candles. And unfortunately for them, that caught their trailer on fire. And when they called, the Oneidas called 911 or the emergency, the fire department, to come and help, they refused. They would not come and help. In fact, they parked their fire trucks at the top of the reservation, at the top of the territory, and watched that trailer burn with 2 people inside of it. 2 Oneida Nation members lost their lives that day. And that was the catalyst for the Oneida Nation that you see today. It happened to be Mr. Hubbard's aunt and uncle that passed away in that trailer fire. And they said, no more. Nobody's coming to help us anymore. We got to help ourselves. So they opened a bingo hall. How does the fire department make money? Bingo, right? They opened their own bingo hall. And the very first thing they purchased was a fire truck. And they parked at the top of the territory so it was ready to go if anybody ever needed it, and that no one would ever have to die as horribly as those 2 Oneida Nation members had died that day. So the Oneidas took an absolutely horrific tragedy, and they made what they have today to help their people with and to show everybody kind of what they're made of. They're resilient, and you see that in their business today. You can see that in all the programming that they run. They have an education program for their students that after school, the kids will go there, and I work with them during the summer, which is very fun because I get to go and do artwork with them. I get to teach them traditional Haudenosaunee legends, and I get to, like my grandmother showed me. So I get to show to the next generation, this is what my grandma showed me. This is what our elders taught me. So now I get to teach them, and that's really thanks to the Oneida Nation. We get to share that art and pass it down so that it will always continue on, and that survival art will continue, that kind of passion we have for our artwork will continue in the next generation. And you have some of these kids that work with their parents all winter long, making their beadwork. They'll go to all the craft shows and the powwows all over the place with their parents selling to make money. A lot of times that's how they bought school clothes. That's how I bought school clothes. I learned how to bead, and all my beadwork that I sold, I was able to go buy new school clothes. It's the only way I could get it. We were too poor to afford, all of our kids having new clothes. So I had to create beadwork and artwork to sell. And that's how I got my school supplies, I got my school clothes, and I carried on that tradition that started with our people when we were forced onto those reservation lands, when we were forced to do our artwork and forced to sell it to people to survive. So that's why we're so protective of our art. We say, don't just make it on your own if you can help it. Like, we understand you like it. That's great. You like our beadwork. You like our basketry. We love that. But buy it from us, or at least learn it from us, because we're the ones who are here because of it. This wasn't just something pretty that you can have in your hair, around your neck. It's not just something pretty. It's survival. So when you're buying that artwork, you're kind of helping restore a little bit of that injustice that the Native people have experienced through our history. All that genocide that happened to us, and all that that trying to destroy our culture and our people. you're helping fix that just a little bit, one family at a time. You know, hey, I'm going to help you survive. I'm going to help you make it to the next generation. That's what we're always trying to do, make it to that next generation, make sure that next generation is better than us, make sure that next generation is better and grows. So by supporting our artwork, our basketry, our beadwork, our paintings, that's what you're helping to do. You're helping us survive. That's why we're so protective of it, and we want people to learn from us or buy from us, and rather than make the art yourself. And that's why we say if you make the art yourself, you're kind of appropriating that art for yourself, and you're taking something away from us, something that we had to fight for. You're taking that away from us and you're making it your own. That's not okay. That's when you're kind of crossing a line at that point. And that's really just the difference. Can you wear a piece of beautiful earrings or necklace? Yes, from a Native person. Buy it from a Native person. Find out who created that. We have our favorite beaders. My favorite beader in the entire world is a Mohawk woman named Wilma. And when I see Wilma's beadwork on somebody, I say, that's a Wilma Cook, isn't it? That's a Wilma. I know a Wilma when I see it. And they're like, yeah, it's Wilma. We all have our favorites. We all know. So we get excited when we see people wearing them, walking around, wearing their barrettes or their purses or their necklaces. We can excitedly say, I know who made that. That's a good beader right there. And you guys, if you look at our beadwork, our artwork, you can also kind of come up with your favorites too. Like, oh, this one is Mary Cook. Oh, that's who she made. This is beautiful. She's Oneida. It's that history behind it, because those techniques have been passed down generation after generation after generation. So you're purchasing a history, a survival for us. And that's why we encourage people to buy directly from us rather than try to create your own art or learn from us, learn with us, so that you can learn what's appropriate. You know, horn rattle is appropriate, bark rattle is not appropriate. What designs are appropriate to put on your beadwork, what isn't. Headdresses, what headdresses are appropriate, which none. None. There's no headdresses that you can buy or wear that should ever be worn by anybody who's not Native. So yeah, that's all I can kind of encourage you guys to do and to kind of, you know, experience our cultures through us. So I do have some artwork up here. I have a couple of different beadworks. I have what's called It's a Boot. We did what's called whimsies, and those were sold at like Saratoga Springs, Niagara Falls to make money for our families. But the techniques got kind of fancier as time went on, and we developed a technique called raised beadwork, which I brought 2 examples of that raised beadwork with me today. And it's just beadwork that's raised up off the fabric. And that was something that we developed in order to keep up with these European tourists that were coming over and wanted fancier things. So we're like, okay, we can do fancy, yeah. So we came up with our raised beadwork, and it's beautiful, and it's still something that we practice today, still something that we do today. Our basketry, we have a couple different styles of baskets here. We have a very little one and a very large one, so you can see the different kind of sizes. And we also have a couple of our corn husk dolls. Now I brought actually 2 different corn husk dolls. So this one right here, this was actually made by Sally Johnson. She was an Oneida Nation member and known for her amazing corn husk dolls. Now this doll is probably about 100 years old. This is pretty old. That's why it's in a protective case. I didn't want to be responsible for it just getting destroyed. But this is what she made. Now this little doll is what I make quite often with children. Now this style doll is something that we teach out into the public because this is a very simple doll. This is something that we want people to know how to make themselves. I wouldn't teach how to make a doll like this. There's techniques behind that that are special to us. There's regalia that she's wearing that's special. So we wouldn't teach a doll like this to the public, but you would a little one like this, a simple one, just because it's more appropriate. So this is a doll that I make with our children especially, and our no-face dolls are actually come from a legend of our no-face doll, or corn husk doll as some people call it. And when you hear Haudenosaunee legends, you are being taught a lesson. We don't just tell stories to entertain you, we're telling them to teach you. That's how I learned a lot of what I know. They told me stories, elders, my father. So I'm going to tell you guys to close out the story of our no-face doll, of our corn husk doll. Now, this story, like I said, it's a lesson for you guys. So I hope you learned something for it, and I'll explain what you're meant to learn at the end. But as you're hearing it, I want you to think what I'm trying to teach you, and hopefully you'll learn something. So when we were first put on Turtle Island, which is what we call North America, so Canada, the United States, and Mexico, we were given the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, the sustainers of life without which we cannot survive. Now, the eldest sister was corn, and she was very honored to be one of the three sisters, but she wished to do more for her people. So she approached Creator and she asked him, "What can I do? I want to do more." And Creator looked at Corn's spirit, and she was very kind and gentle and beautiful, and he had an idea. He took some of her husks and he created a doll in her image. And he made this corn husk doll and told her, "I want you to go to Turtle Island and go from village to village, playing with all the children, sing with them, dance with them, just make them happy." And corn husk doll, she goes, "Oh, that's a good job, Creator. Thank you. I'll do that job, and I'll do that job well." She went to Turtle Island. She went to the first village. She gathered all those children. She played with them and sang with them and danced with them. And when she went to go leave, they said, "Corn husk doll, don't leave. We love you so much. You're so beautiful. Stay with us." And she said, "Don't worry, children. I have to go to the next village, but I'll return." She went to the next village. She gathered those children, played with them and sang with them and danced with them. And once again, when she went to go leave, they said, "Corn husk doll, don't leave. You're so beautiful. Stay with us." And she said, "Don't worry, children. I had to go to the villages all across Turtle Island, but I will return." At every village, Corn husk doll heard the same thing. "Corn husk doll, please, you're so beautiful. Stay with us. You're so beautiful." And she started to wonder, what do they mean by "I'm so beautiful"? I better go check. So she walked down to a river, she peeked into the waters, and she was, "Oh, that's what they mean by "I'm so beautiful. Look at my face, I'm gorgeous. No wonder why they never want me to leave. They get to look at my beautiful face all day." So she sat down at the riverbank, she braided her hair, she fluffed her husk, and she stared at her beautiful face. And soon, Corn husk doll lost all track of time. A day passed, another day. Soon a week had passed, and Corn husk doll was nowhere to be found. And when the children of Turtle Island realized their doll had not returned, they started to cry. Now, Creator, he hears the children crying, so he sends for his messenger, Screech Owl. He says, "Screech Owl, come here. What happened? Why are the children crying? They should be singing and dancing." And Screech Owl said, "Well, Creator, you know that doll you made to sing with them and dance with them and make them happy? She's not doing her job. She's down there staring at her beautiful face. She's been there for well over a week." Now, Creator got angry. He said, "Okay, go down there and get her. Tell her I want to talk to her right now." So Screech Owl flew down to Turtle Island. He landed next to Corn husk doll and he said, "Hey, Corn husk doll, you're in trouble. Creator wants to talk to you." And we all know that feeling we get when we've done something wrong, we're about to get yelled at. Yeah, I knew that feeling very well as a kid. That's how Corn husk doll felt in that moment. She went to Creator and she said, "Creator, I heard I've angered you. What have I done?" And he says, "Just listen." So she listened, and she could hear all the children of Turtle Island crying. And she became very sad because she knew she was the source of their sadness. She nodded. She says, "Okay, Creator, I know what I've done. It won't happen again. I apologize." He says, "Better not. I'll only warn you this one time. Get down there and do your job." So she returned to Turtle Island. She went to the first village, cheered all those children up. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, all across Turtle Island, Corn husk doll had returned. She was doing her job, and we're doing her job very well. Now, years passed. Corn husk doll was doing her job so well, but she noticed her children that she had been first put on Turtle Island to play with were starting to change. They looked so different. They had children, their children had children. They had gray in their hair and wrinkles on their face. They all looked very different. And she started to wonder, I wonder if I look different. I wonder if I'm still beautiful. I better go check. So Corn husk doll walked back down to a river, peeked into the waters, and goes, "Oh, thank goodness I'm just as beautiful as the day I was put here. Oh man, those children are so lucky to see me." So once again, she sat down, braided her hair, fluffed her husk, and stared at her beautiful face. And once again, she lost all track of time. And when the children at Turtle Island could not find their doll, they became upset and started to cry. And once again, Creator hears this and sends for Screech Owl. "Screech Owl, what happened? Why are the children crying?" Screech Owl says, "Well, that doll, she's up to her old tricks again, you know. She's down at that river. She's staring at her beautiful face. She's been there for over a week. Our creator got very angry. He'd already warned her once, and he was not going to do it again. He says, okay, Screech Owl, you're going to do something to me. He whispers in Screech Owl's ears. Screech Owl's eyes got real big. He goes, okay, creator, if that's what you want me to do, I'll do it. All right. So Screech Owl flew down to Turtle Island, and he could see Cornhusk down there without a care in the world, staring at her beautiful face. And with his long, sharp talons, he swoops down and pulls a reflection from the water. And from that moment on, Cornhusk had no face to stare at. And that is a lesson that we teach our children when they're very young. That is a lesson that we want them to remember, so why we don't put faces on our dolls. And this is a lesson I tell children when they come to visit me at the Segoe Cultural Center, because I want them to learn from us. And I want them to learn a couple different lessons. The first lesson, one of the more important lessons, is really about vanity. We try to teach our children, our people, beauty is not what your face looks like, it's how you treat people. People loved Cornhusk. When she returned to them with no face, they still loved her and sang with her and danced with her and called her beautiful, because they were never referring to her face. They were referring to how she treated them. She treated them with love and kindness and respect. And that's how we feel that we should treat each other, and that will make you beautiful. If you think back of how you're treated in life, you remember people who are mean to you. You don't want to be around them. You think, oh, that's not a good person. But you also remember the people who are kind to you, those beautiful people. And you want to be next to them, right? You want to stand next to a beautiful person because they're kind and gentle and respectful. So we tell our children this. Now, another lesson in this one, each storyteller will have a different way of telling a story. So the way you heard Cornhusk No Face Doll story today might not be the same way you hear it, a couple of years from now from a different storyteller. We all tell them a little bit different, but they all have the same lessons in there. But the way I tell this story, I want to remind our people to be trustworthy, to keep your word. Cornhusk Doll, don't worry, creator, I'll do my job well. Don't worry, children, I'll return. And she didn't. She wasn't a very trustworthy person. They couldn't depend on her. And we want people to be able to depend on us. If we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. If we say we're going to be someplace, we're going to be there. It's important for us to keep our word and be honest people. Now, another important lesson in this story, and especially when I talk to children, Indian country has a very high suicide rate. The reservations, some of them are absolutely kind of desolate places. There's not a lot of hope on those reservations. And I like to remind our children, especially, that Creator made us all. Every single one of us He made and created for a purpose. We all have a job to do, a purpose for being here on Turtle Island. He didn't make a mistake with any single one of us. So Cornhusk, she got lucky. Creator told her, go down there and play with the children. She got told what her purpose is. We're not so lucky. We don't get told what our purpose is. We have to go through life and try to figure that out ourselves. So we have to do that, but we have to also remember that we do have a purpose, a reason for being here. So that's why our dolls don't have any faces, and that's why I make Cornhusk dolls with our children, so they can remember those very important lessons to us. But again, you'll never hear this Cornhusk doll story told the same way I told it. If you hear it from a different storyteller, they're going to tell a little bit different. They might have different lessons. It depends on the storyteller. They change. But our stories are meant to be shared. So if you want to tell the stories yourself, we say, please do. Tell our stories. They have lessons that your children need to learn too. Your grandchildren need to know. They're important. So if you hear a Haudenosaunee legend, don't be afraid to tell that legend to your children, your grandchildren. We want you to. They have lessons for you. They have lessons for your children, ways that we want you guys to remember to live by. So I hope that you guys remember this Cornhusk doll story and remember to be very kind and beautiful people on the inside, treating each other with love and respect. So thank you.
So we're going to have a musical interlude instead of our hymn.
These are our offering words. We come to this place because we love what exists here. This church is a living entity, and like all living things, it must have nurture and sustenance. Its breath, its heartbeat, its life itself can only be derived from its living components, us. An offering is being made now by the willing and received in love. Jessica, let me thank you again for helping us to be better allies. And I'm going to ask you to join us with the words in your order of service, or that you already know, as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These I carry in our hearts until we meet again. Chris is going to do the prelude. Yeah, one of those.
And just a brief introduction to this piece. It was created by a Unitarian musician who was at the Standing Rock protests in North Dakota to stop the oil pipeline from invading their space and protecting their water. So this does have some Dakota words as a chorus, Mini Wachone, which is water is life. All my relations come, every nation come, all my relations under the sun, we are one. We are praying, come. We are praying, come. We are the song and we are the drum. We are one. Mini Wachone sing. Mini Wachone sing. Mini Wachone, water is life for everything. We are the water, sing. We are the water, sing. We are the water, we are where all life begins. Mini wachone sing. Mini wachone sing. Mini wachone, water is life for everything. All my relations come, every nation come. All my relations under the sun, we are one. All my relations come, every nation come. All my relations under the sun, we are one.
Chris, thank you so much. My friends, go in peace, but don't go. Uh, did I mention there is a lunch? And please, if you can stay even for 10 minutes to reflect on some questions that the small groups will be posing. That's really important to this afternoon, and we appreciate it. And we'll have all of you out of here as soon as you want to be after 20 minutes or so. Thanks, everybody. Celeste.
Everybody that's still online. Barb, I think you're muted. Diane's muted as
Diane's muted too.
Ed. Hi, Ed.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
Good. Everybody doing all right?
Yes,
Do you want to take a 5-minute break or something before we start with these questions? Are everybody ready to go? I could put the questions up because I don't think anyone's seen them in advance.
I think that's a good idea. And I'm okay to start. I've been eating while the speaker was talking because I have choir practice in Lions Falls at 1 o'clock.
Okay. Well, we've only got, I think we've only got 4 people, so I put up the questions. So we can get started if everybody's okay.
But how come I can't see them?
I don't know.
I can't see them either.
Oh, that's weird. It's showing as, oh, I know why. How about now?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay,
now I can see them.
that was my technical error.
No problem.
So, I don't know if everyone wants to, do you think it's better if we read through them first and take a minute to think about it, or just dive right in?
I'll go with the consensus.
Okay, I'm good with, I can just read one at a time and we can just respond to them. That's probably the quickest way to do it.
Yep.
So the first one is, how do you think our ministry with Karen went last year, her first full year serving as our halftime minister? And how about our ministry for each other as a congregation, and what went well and what didn't? That covers a lot of ground, but
That's a pretty huge, that's like 3 questions.
yeah, that's what I thought. That kind of
Or
covers
4.
all the rest of them too, in a way. So, but so whoever, I can actually start because my only input is, I think Reverend Karen has really fostered a bigger sense of community than we've had in a long time, and I think she's also really done some things differently that I think have brought people together. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that's done, and she's also fostered more participation. So the only thing that I can say that could go better is we could use, as usual, more people volunteering to do things, because we still seem to have mostly the same core of people doing stuff. But I'm hoping in the future that maybe as we get more new people and stuff, we can get more of that going, get more volunteerism going on. So if I would say what didn't go well, I would say we have a lot of the same old people doing the same old stuff.